In 1844, Giuseppe Verdi wrote to a friend, "I don't like prostitutes on the stage." A few years later, in 1853, he composed his loving portrait of a prostitute, La Traviata. More than one opera lover has pondered the question, what caused Verdi to change his mind? This is Peter Allen talking about La Traviata in the series Talking About Opera, sponsored by the Metropolitan Opera Guild, and I'm not about to propose an answer to that question, since the only one who could answer it, if he could, is Verdi himself. Verdi has left us strong clues, but they neglect a debated aspect of the question: how close to Verdi's own life is this opera about a woman gone astray, Traviata, as the heroine calls herself in the last act of the opera? As he was composing La Traviata, Verdi said he looked for subjects that are bold to the extreme. 2 years earlier, Rigoletto had been called obscene by the censors, but had met tremendous success. The censors had objected, among much else, to an ugly hunchback as the title character. But that was exactly what Verdi liked. In his words, putting on the stage a character who seems grossly deformed and absurd, but inwardly is passionate and full of love. Following Rigoletto came the also stupendously successful Il Trovatore, which Verdi was completing even as he was beginning Traviata. Critics are perpetually astonished that two such wildly different stories, with such appropriately different music, were in Verdi's mind at the same time, but they also point out striking parallels in the two operas. For Verdi, a strong attraction of Trovatore was another unconventional subject: a half-demented old gypsy woman brooding over vengeance for her martyred mother and love for her surrogate son, and roaming through 15th century Spain. Verdi's next subject was an elegant prostitute of 19th century Paris. Verdi called La Traviata a subject of our time, and indeed he was severely criticized for having chosen a subject too much of its time, a time, it was felt, in which the realism that was so strong in French literature of the day was corrupting society. The critic Abramo Bassevi, writing about La Traviata just 4 years after its premiere, pointed out that writers like Stendhal and George Sand had not merely excused illicit love, but had attacked the institution of marriage itself. Previously, lamented Bassevi, it was felt that a single act of sin could blacken a hitherto pure life. But these new authors, he said, were proclaiming that a sinful love, if sincere, could redeem a vicious life. And Verdi, by clothing that thought in his beautiful music, was, said Bassevi, even guiltier of immorality. When Traviata came to London, it was greeted with words like repulsive, trash, foul, hideous, loathsome. It was allowed on stage in London because it was sung in Italian, and so its indecencies would not be understood. When it was sung in English in Chicago in 1885, the Tribune thanked the considerate soprano who, quote, relapsed into Italian in all the wicked parts. Verdi could hardly have been surprised at such criticism. The French play on which he based the opera had been banned in London and banned earlier in Paris until a change of government allowed it to be staged. The celebrated play was The Lady with the Camellias, La Dame aux Camélias, which is also the name of the novel on which the play was based. On stage, La Dame aux Camélias was the most popular play of the entire 19th century. Verdi was in Paris on the day of its sensational premiere in 1852. He was living there with a remarkable young woman named Giuseppina Strepponi, who had had a brief career as a brilliant soprano. Strepponi, as we'll see, is often compared with the heroine of the play. Fascinating as Strepponi was, even more fascinating to Parisians was the model for La Dame aux Camélias, the beautiful, young, and uniquely admired courtesan Marie Duplessis, who died in Paris in 1847 only a few months before Verdi came to Paris for the first time and found that he liked its easygoing ways. Marie was a girl from the farm, but when she died at the age of 23, fashionable men and women, among them Charles Dickens, trooped to her exquisitely furnished apartment to admire and to buy. Her hairbrush was said to have been sold for its weight in gold. The inventory list of her happy creditors included precious tapestries, rare objects of art, and an impressive library. Soon after her death, Marie Duplessis was made the heroine of La Dame aux Camélias, which is in print even today at several publishers. In English, the play and the famous Garbo movie version of it are called Camille, and the author is the younger Alexandre Dumas, the son of the hugely successful author of romantic novels like The Three Musketeers. The son, at the age of 24, with his realistic novel and then the play, achieved a renown matching that of his father. The young man's novel, dashed off in 3 weeks, was bold, well-written, and moving. But no small part of its impact came from the fact that everyone in Paris knew its hero was modeled on the author himself, and its plot was inspired by his love for Marie. The young Alexandre Dumas gave the hero his own initials with the name Armand Duval. He named his heroine Marguerite Gautier. As you would expect, there are many differences between life and the novel, between novel and play, and between play and opera. But central to them all is a uniquely charming, consumptive young woman.